Welcome to this video. Today I'm going to show you a really useful tip on using TestNG to run your automation test. It's about how to retry failed tests automatically, and more importantly, in a beautiful way. As we know, automation tests will encounter flaky failures because of different reasons. For flaky tests, it means some tests will fail at the first run, but if you run it again, it may pass, and it happens randomly. In this situation, do you want to rerun those flaky tests automatically? Today I'm going to show you how to do it with TestNG. Okay, here is a demo project. Now I have created two TestNG tests in the main project. Here we have two tests. One test is the flaky test. Here I will simulate a flaky test behavior. I make it always fail at the first time when we run it, but it can pass if we rerun it at the second time. Here is the logic for this test. Firstly, I declared a static integer variable count and initialize it to 1. I will check if the value of this count variable is equal to 1. Then we make this test fail by add a assert if true equals false. Obviously it's false, so that the test will fail. So through this logic, it ensures the first time when we run this test, it will always fail. The else logic here is if the count does not equal to 1, it will just output a message which makes this test pass. Alright, that's the first test. The second test is very simple. Just print out a message. Obviously, this test will always pass. And let's name it as stable test. Now let me directly run these two tests. The expected result is the stable test should pass, but the flaky test should fail. Now let's run this test. Alright. So as expected, the flaky test failed. And we can view the test report here. So here, the stable test pass, the flaky test fail. Now I want to make this flaky test get auto rerun a second time. And if the second time it pass, the overall test result should be pass. Now how to do it? Firstly, let's look at this statement. When the first time we run the flaky test, the count value will be increased to 2. Now I want to make auto rerun this test happen so that when this test is executed for the second time, this clause will evaluate to false because the count value will be 2. And the logic will goes to here, which will make this test pass. Let's see how to make the rerun happen. What I need to do is firstly create a retry analyzer class. Okay, here's the class I added. This class has to implement a TestNG provided interface for auto rerun a failed test. In this class, you must implement one method, the retry method. For this method, you should return either true or false. If you make this method return true, it means rerun the failed test. If you make it return false, it means don't rerun the failed test. And you can control how many times you want to rerun for this failed test. Here I use a count variable to make the rerun only happen once. If the rerun pass, that means this test will be marked as pass. But if the rerun fails, then this failed test will still be a failed one. It will not rerun it anymore. Okay, we have got our retry analyzer class ready, the next step is to add an attribute to the TestNG test annotation, like this. Basically, what we did is to pass our retry analyzer class to this test method through this attribute of the test annotation. Now let's rerun the test again to see what happens. Alright, as we can see, our test passed. Let's view the test report. As we can see from this report, the flaky test finally got marked pass. That's because we made our test to pass in the rerun. But here, we see a skipped one. The first run of flaky test is marked as skipped. And here, we can see the exception message of the first run. Okay, now we have seen how to enable a test to get automatically rerun after its first failure, and make it fail if it fails again when rerun it. Now, let's test if I make the second run of the flaky test also fail. Will the test result be pass or fail for the flaky test? To make this flaky test fail in the rerun, I just need to replace this line with a fail statement. For example, alright, now this statement will make sure the flaky test will fail again in the rerun. Now let's run the tests again. Now we got one failure. Let's view the test report. So here, the flaky test is finally marked as fail. And the first failure of flaky test is also marked as skip. And we can see exception message for both the skipped run and the final run of flaky test. Okay, now you may think this function is really useful. I want to apply it to all the tests, not only for this flaky one, so that in case in future any test becomes flaky, they have a chance to rerun automatically. So in order to do that, you just reapply this attribute to any other test you want, like this. But this is not a recommended way to do that. Why? Because let's say you have 100 tests, then you need to apply this attribute 100 times. Is there a way we can declare the auto retry once, but it can be applied to every test? Yes, here is how to do it. In order to do that, you need to add another class. Okay, here's the new class we created. It is a class which implements a TestNG provided interface, the IInvoked method listener. In this class, you need to provide some logic inside this method before invocation. This method will be called every time before a test method is invoked by TestNG. So at here, we add some logic. Get the current method which will be run. And then check if the retry analyzer of this method is null. Then add it by call this method setRetryAnalyzer on this test method and supply our retryAnalyzer class created earlier. So by doing this, we make sure for every test method that is going to be run, if it is not applied with our retryAnalyzer, we apply the retryAnalyzer for this method here. So in this case, I only need to write the apply retryAnalyzer logic here once, and it will be applied to every test method. Now let's test if it will work as we expected. Let's go back to the test class. Before running the test, I'm going to remove the old way of using our retryAnalyzer. Okay, I have removed the old way of apply retryAnalyzer to our tests. Now I will use the new way to apply the retryAnalyzer, like this. This means apply the test method listener logics to all the tests within this test class. Finally, let me make the flaky test can pass in the rerun. Okay, now the flaky test should be able to pass during rerun. Now let's run the test. Okay, as we can see, there's no failure, which means the rerun works. Let's view the test report. Okay, the report also looks correct. The stable test pass, the flaky test pass, and there's a skipped one of the flaky test. Okay, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you think this video is useful, please share, like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.